Great, I think that's rolling now. Cool, so I might just give it one more minute and then we can kick off. I did have a fun little game we could play while we're waiting, but I'm not sure if we need to play it. I was just going to say, if you could describe how you're feeling right now in 3 emojis, we can try and interpret what that is like. But my emoji is probably going to be excited and a little bit tired at the same time. So
Me too.
cool. Great. So I think we might as well get started. So thank you, Simeon, for coming along, and sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong. I'm hoping that we can send this to a few other students as well, as if everyone's a little bit busy. So we're just going to be recording as well. So yeah, today is an info session with Nous Group. So Carmen, Matt and I are all from Nous Group, and we're just going to give a brief overview of, I guess, what we do, the work, like how we work, and then Carmen's going to give us an overview of the recruitment process for grads as well, or for interested grads. I'd like to start by doing an acknowledgement of country. So I'm up in Darwin on the lands of the Larrakia people. So I'd like to pay my respects to the Larrakia people and extend that respect to elders past and present. And I know that everyone else is probably, except for Matt, you're up in Darwin with me as well. But if you could just pop in the chat the lands that you are on as well, feel free to do that too. So we'll start with some introductions and then I can give an overview of the session. So as you can see on the screen, my name is Emily Hanson and I'm a senior consultant at Nous. I've been working at Nous for the past 2 years and I started as a consultant. Before Nous, I actually worked for an education charity. So I was running programs in schools up in Darwin, but I'm originally from Perth, which is where I studied my chemical engineering degree. So I've had a little bit of a mishmash of experience, but that's kind of all the fun of being a consultant, really. So it kind of leads well into working at Nous. But now I'll pass it over to Carmen to do a little intro as well. Thanks, Carmen.
Thanks, Emily. Hello, everyone. I'm Carmen and I work in our internal talent acquisition team here at Nous Group. So I get involved in sort of all sorts of things when it comes to our hiring at Nous. I've been here for about 4.5 years, which has gone by very quickly. Love sort of meeting with different people. And prior to Nous, I used to work in sort of agency world in recruitment. So very different side of things, but love being internal at Nous and sort of connecting to so many people. So I'll throw back to you, Emily.
Great, thanks, Carmen. And just a little fun fact, Carmen was actually part of my recruitment process, so we go way back. Cool. So yeah, basically the agenda. So we're just going to give an introduction to who Nous is, what it's like to work at Nous, the graduate roles at Nous. So Carmen's going to take us through that. And then we're going to do a Q&A session with Matt, who has kindly agreed to join us. And also I'm just going to run through the slides. Me and Carmen are just going to run through some of the slides to give some info. But at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or pop them in the chat, and we can speak to those as well. So yeah, very open to answering any questions you might have. So to start off with, we're just going to give an introduction to Nous. So Nous Group is a medium-sized management consultancy. So we're a bit smaller than the Big Four, but we have about 750 people and we're working currently across 3 different countries. So we have offices in most of the capital cities within Australia, so Darwin, Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, but we're also working in Canada and the UK, so offices in Toronto and London, which is really exciting. But just to reiterate, the opportunity that we're kind of speaking about today is for a Darwin graduate role. But in the graduate role, as we'll get to with Matt, you can kind of work on international and other national projects as well. So you can get exposed to a lot of different things. There are about 20 people in the Darwin office, so it's quite, we're all quite close. It's quite close-knit here, and it's really lovely size office. In Melbourne, I think we have about 200 or 250 people, so the office sizes do vary, but yeah, it's a little bit smaller in Darwin, which can be quite nice as well because we all know each other really well. And yeah, as I've gone through, we work across 8 locations and 3 different countries. And a little bit about what Nous actually means. So this kind of speaks to who we are as a company as well. So Nous has 3 meanings in 3 different languages. So in classical Greek, it means wisdom. In English, it means wits. And in French, it means we. So it's kind of this idea that you can kind of combine all 3 aspects in the way that we work. So we might work really smart. We might know a lot of stuff about the sectors that we work in, but we kind of combine that all when we work together. So it's really that idea of like bringing it all these different aspects together and working together as a team, but also working closely with our clients to deliver good projects. Another thing that I think it's important to point out about Nous is one of our key value propositions is positive influence. And that means like, yes, we are really interested in delivering the best outcomes for our clients, but we're also thinking about what we're doing in terms of the whole of society. So we're thinking about the best outcomes for our clients, but also more broadly for society as well. And that's kind of what was one of the things that really drove me to kind of be interested in working at Nous. Like I really feel like my values align with that. So I think that's pretty cool. So now I'll just go through a little bit about what it's like to work at Nous. So working as a consultant, as I've kind of experienced over the last 2 years, it's kind of hard to describe exactly what you do day to day, but I'll give it my best shot and then I'll give you an example to kind of put that into perspective. So what we do is we solve complex problems together as a team. So again, that idea of working really closely together and working closely with clients to deliver evidence-based solutions. And we work fast-paced and our work is diverse and different every day. So in terms of an example, so our most projects or pretty much all projects, our clients will have like a problem and they'll come to us to help with advice to how to solve this problem. So for an example, that's kind of more specific to Darwin. We could work with an Aboriginal health organisation who might be really happy with their in-hour services, so their services that they deliver from 9 to 5, but in their remote communities where they're running their health clinics, it's a bit hard to get staff to work after hours, so more of that emergency care. And they're wanting to look at some options that they can kind of implement to help provide care to First Nations communities after hours. So what we would do as a project team at Nous, so we have a project director, project manager, and then consultants. So this is kind of like a typical team structure. We'd kind of kick off with the client, make sure that we understood their problem, just asking them questions, and then we could make a project plan. And then we'd go away and quite typically we'd do some research, so looking at maybe what's happening in Queensland, in WA, so some similar jurisdictions to kind of get an idea of what's currently existing in that area. Then we also have a lot of internal experts at Nous. So we might, who probably worked in this sector for about 30 years. So then we could do some internal interviews with them to get some more ideas. And then a key part of what we really do at Nous, which is what I really enjoy, is we do a lot of stakeholder engagement. So what this could look like is going out to the remote community and engaging with the First Nations communities to see what they think about the after-hours service. We'd also probably talk to the clinical staff and then to other staff in the organisations as well, just to kind of get that picture of kind of their perspectives, because obviously we want to design a service that's most relevant for them. So that's kind of what we do at that stage. And then we combine the research that we've done, the knowledge from the experts, and the insights or the conversations that we've had with the stakeholders, and we'd start to theme them and draw out some insights and see what common ideas that people are having. And then we'd probably go back to the client to get their perspective. So we'd present some, maybe do like a workshop or something with some senior executive staff and get their input. Then we'd write a report and present our findings and recommendations. That's kind of like a lengthy explanation of a project, but I feel like it's almost necessary to understand exactly what we do day to day.
Absolutely.
But yes, so that's kind of the work as a consultant. And as I said, you can kind of be at the project director level, manager level, and consultant. So we're all working as a team throughout that. And these are the sectors, services, and our clients that we work with. So just to reiterate, we work across a lot of sectors. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of, if you're not exactly sure what you want to be doing in terms of your career, you can get a lot of different experience. So I've obviously started as an engineer, but I've had so much experience working in education, health and aging, human services, which are sectors that I really like to work in and align with kind of my interests. So you can get exposed to many different things. So those are our sectors, and our services are kind of like how we do the work. So these are different ways that we work. So we work in many different ways. And then as you can see, there's a snapshot of some of our clients as well. So huge names up there, but we work with unis, a lot of government work, and then as I mentioned, we also work with small Aboriginal businesses as well. So huge range of work that we do. Then I just wanted to give a quick overview of the day in the life. So this is from one of my colleagues who is actually a pianist, so it makes sense for her morning routine. But basically, every day is different, as I said. So you can start your day with whatever you want, your morning routine. Ellen cycles into work, and then you could have a client meeting. So this could just be a weekly progress update. Then you might do a team project meeting to chat about what the plan is for the week and what you need to do, have lunch, and then in the afternoon you might have some focus time. So maybe you have a report due in the next week or so you can just have some time to write that. In the evening, as an office in Darwin, we do a lot of, we call them care and connection activities. So on Friday afternoons, we have drinks quite often. And it's just like a nice time to socialise after working together all throughout the week. And we also do bigger care and connection activities every couple of months as well. So we've done like go-karting. What else have we done? Lawn bowls. So just fun things like that. So we really like to get together as an office as well, which is quite nice. And then Ellen is a really good person, so she does her NT emergency services volunteering as well. And then I think finally for me, and then I'll pass over to you, Carm, I think it's important to know about what it's like to live in Darwin and to make the move up here, which can be quite exciting. I have definitely loved the fact that I moved to Darwin, but I think Darwin has something for everyone. So there's a lot of camping, a lot of outdoors activities, but we also have some really cool markets, some really good food, and then there's also Darwin Festival. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why living in Darwin has been really enjoyable for me so far. And then another key part of that is it's really transient in Darwin. So it's very common for people to just move here for a year or two. But that also means that everyone's kind of willing to make friends. Everyone's kind of willing to go out and do all these fun activities on the weekend. So it's a really fun place to be and experience a lifestyle here. So yes, that's a plug about living in Darwin, because I could talk so much about that. But now I will pass over to you, Carm, to talk through the grad recruitment process.
Fabulous. Thank you, Emily. So in terms of our graduate recruitment process, here at NOUS, there are a couple of stages, but before we sort of get into that, and if you are sort of starting to weigh up, what sort of opportunity is right for you, is consulting at NOUS sort of right for me? I think this slide sums it up really nicely. NOUS really is the right place for people with all of these things on the slide. So as Emily said, positive influence is sort of at the heart and soul of what we do at NOUS. And I think even for myself, I'm not a consultant. I work in our internal recruitment team, but I'm still really connected to that purpose of positive influence. And I know that my role plays a part in that. And I think everyone at NOUS, no matter what role you play, shares that same interest. And so I think that's really important, and that might mean different things to different people. So that's a sort of a piece that's sort of front of mind. We've got here as well, aren't caught up by titles and positional power. At NOUS, we have a very flat structure, which gives people the opportunity to move around and work across different areas, get involved in different projects. Also, a lot of the time, we have people who might move around sort of within different roles. A lot of people stay at NOUS for a long time, and so they're not sort of caught up on sort of a particular title. We like to keep it quite flexible. Don't take themselves too seriously. I think everyone at NOUS pretty humble, likes to have a bit of a laugh, but works really hard. Consulting is all about teamwork and sort of that, team collaboration, working as a team, and so relying on each other. So not taking themselves too seriously, and talks to the next part there about, being a team player, enjoys that diversity of thinking and working with other people. Intellectually agile, working with amazing different people. I think that's the beauty of consulting, is everyone sort of comes from a different walk of life. There's not like a box that you go, okay, you've got to have X, Y, and Z to be a consultant, but all really smart, really brilliant minds that are working together to solve great outcomes. We do have a really continuous learning and developing culture at NOUS. Feedback is really important and a big part of our culture. So it's really common for people to give and receive feedback, because we know that's coming from a really good place. And then the pieces on the slide there. So have the skills and appetite in doing the work. So obviously sort of that's where the recruitment process comes in, and are colourful. So, all walks of life and so forth. Might just jump to the next slide. Thanks, Emily. So this is just a quick slide to showcase that typically our graduate roles open in February for the following February. In Darwin, we actually keep that rolling all year. So that's really great for the purpose of today. We are still hiring for our fabulous Darwin office. Next slide, please. Thanks, Emily. So if you were to apply for NOUS, this is what your recruitment process would look like. Basically, you would pop in an application, and so we would ask for things like your resume and cover letter. We'd ask you some questions as well. You would then complete an online assessment. So this really is testing sort of different things. It's really sort of testing problem solving, how you think on the spot, and that's sort of a short, sharp online assessment. Will ask you some questions as well. Then, if that all goes well, you'd meet with someone like myself. So you'd meet the recruitment team. It might be a recording video. It might be an in-person like this. And so you have the opportunity to sort of receive feedback, ask questions. I'll ask you some questions and really get a good sense of your background, and sort of your interest in NOUS. Then we'll dive into either an assessment centre, which we typically run, as Emily said, in sort of our larger offices, like Melbourne is a bigger one. So we would do more of a one-on-one interview in somewhere like Darwin, but it's really where you're going to go and do a case study that tests your skill set and problem solving. I think personally that the sort of words case study sounds quite scary and daunting. It's really just about sort of showing, this is a hypothetical scenario of, a problem that you might solve, talk us through how you might work through that with the client. If you go for sort of any consulting graduate roles, case studies are really common, so you can expect to see them. Cool. In terms of what our assessors, so when you are on that interview and what they're looking for, I'll leave the slide there for you to sort of have a bit of a read, but I touched on it before: collaboration, communication, content, learning agility, resilience, and accountability. So they're sort of some of the key things that we look for that we think a strong candidate will be able to showcase and really thrive at Nous. From an internal recruitment perspective, it is common. We get lots of applications, so take some time up front. I know it's tricky when you're applying for lots of roles and wanting to pop your resume out there, but if you can, spend some time just tailoring it a little bit. We're keen to understand why you want to work at Nous, what you know about Nous, staying across the industry trends and recent news. That's really important in consulting because you'd actually come in as an expert, on a team. And so being across these trends that might come up in a client meeting is really important. Practice interview questions, and AI, it's here to stay. We actually use it internally at Nous, and we want you to use it, but use it in a meaningful way. So it's not to replace your thinking, but to enhance. I think that's everything from me. Perfect. I might hand that back to you, Emily.
Great. Thanks so much for running us through that, Calm. And now I think a great way to finish. So we've brought Matt along, who's one of our current grads in the Darwin office. And if there are any questions for him, just pop them in the chat and I can also ask them. But I have a few questions myself that we might start off with, and then we can get to other ones if they pop up. So Matt, maybe to start off with, if you could give a brief intro about yourself, and then we can start asking some more in-depth questions too.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, and hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm from Melbourne, but I'm currently living in Darwin. I studied at Monash University. I did a Bachelor of Arts and then a Master of Public Policy. And I moved straight from uni into Nous, which was actually a really nice segue I found because the research and sort of complex problem solving aspects of university and of Nous consulting work really rolled together quite nicely. That's a bit about my background. Any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I think maybe what another good question to ask is what made you apply to work for the Darwin office, especially since you were from Melbourne?
Yeah, the opportunity for Nous as someone who didn't really know what they wanted to do was really, really good. Nous sort of provides opportunity to learn in a breadth of different sort of opportunities and sectors, and different working groups and clientele, and it's just a really great breadth of opportunity. And then the Darwin office in particular has its own sort of unique opportunities with it's a very rapidly developing city, a very different jurisdictional geographical makeup compared to somewhere like Melbourne or Adelaide. So it's sort of really good opportunity to sort of learn, get across some different sort of sectors and work with some of the top people in different areas.
Yeah, well, that was a great answer. I feel like Darwin is definitely a fun and different place to be, especially compared to some of the cities down south. What about your grad application experience and kind of like the whole onboarding as well into becoming a grad? What was that like?
Yeah, really good. I was going to comment earlier that Carmen was actually also involved in my recruitment at the time as well. But no, the application project was actually quite enjoyable. The interviews I remember actually ran through like a case study, gave us an opportunity to sort of show what you were capable of and actually learn as you were going as well. I actually remember that there was an economics question, and it's very out of my sort of comfort zone, out of my strengths, and I got it completely and utterly wrong. And rather than that sort of being a big red flag on my application, it was actually a really good learning opportunity. And the interviewer actually talked me through how to solve the problem, and actually sort of generated some learnings from that and explained what I could do to improve in those sort of areas, which was actually really nice. It was really enjoyable and yeah, very worthwhile doing.
Oh, that's great. I feel like sometimes they can be quite intensive things that you have to work through. So it's nice that they were able to kind of take you through it, and you were also open to that as well, because I know that's huge too.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's the biggest sort of like feedback I got, was to actually use something you don't know as an opportunity to prove what you can learn and can produce. And sort of that, I think Carmen was talking about earlier, that sort of being able to use your like intellect flexibly, and sort of just sort of backing what you do know to actually answer the questions as best as you can, and show how you can develop that learning, even if you're not 100% sure on the actual processes.
Yeah, definitely. What about your actual move to Darwin? So you've kind of talked about like the grad side of things, but what about actually moving up here? How did you find that?
It's hot, but it's actually a really, really nice place to live. So I was originally only going to come up here for about a year, but I've already sort of extended that to be sort of an extended period of time. I've got no plans to move back down south now. It's just a really nice place to live. For those from Adelaide, Melbourne, those areas, it's like a big country town with the resources and accessibility of a city. The people are also really nice. The transient lifestyle makes it really easy to sort of socialize. There's lots of social opportunities, and I'm actually really enjoying Darwin. So yeah, no plans to move back anytime soon.
Wow, that's awesome. Also news to us. That's great for the developers. And I guess maybe you've just covered it then, but what about what's been the best thing about working at Now since you started?
It's definitely the work that we're actually like expected to do as grads. I think I've heard from a lot of friends and people in different grad roles across the public sector, where it's very much like a research role. It's a pencil pusher type thing. Whereas here at NOUS, it's actually very integral work straight away. Like for the main project that I'm working on at the moment, I am the main consultant, the main contributor, and I'm actually doing like a lot of the proper insight development and research pieces that you wouldn't really get the opportunity to learn how to do that at another grad role. And that's been like, yeah, really, really good. You can sort of see where your work is sort of rolling towards project goals and towards actually real world impacts as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I remember I didn't start as a grad, but when I started as a consultant, I also found that. So I was like in client meetings in the first week, and I feel like it's a really nice way to just kind of start, because you know exactly what you're doing from the very start. So it's not just like doing a lot of research or a lot of induction stuff, and then waiting a while to like get into the actual work.
Great.
If there are no other questions, I might just ask one final one, Matt, and then we can maybe just wrap up there. But for the final question, I want to know if you have any advice for potential grads that are applying for NOUS.
I think for me, this sort of proved to be a really good opportunity as someone who didn't really know what they wanted to do. I'd obviously done my studies in public policy and criminology, had a lot of skills, but no real plans. And what NOUS and consulting kind of offered was a way to like sort of get into the industry without having to select what my future career was going to be. And I've already worked in education department, justice departments, health departments. I've worked all across the board in my first 4 months, and it's just a really, really nice way to like sort of see what's out there and develop skills in a few different areas. So I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. I feel like you had amazing answers and probably covered a lot of the information that I presented, but in a much more interesting way. So thank you so much for that, Matt. So like I said, thank you so much for coming along. We really appreciated everyone's attendance and being able to present this information to you as well. We have 2 QR codes up there, just for one for the grad consultant applications and one for the internship applications as well. So I'll just leave those up there if anyone wants to take a picture of those and take that down. Otherwise, I'll wrap up there and say thank you so much again, and thank you so much to Philippa for helping to organise this, and Carmen and Matt for coming along as well. So great. Thank you so much, everyone.